TDC, your VAT Day specialist, is giving you more reasons to save this holiday season. Shop your way on Friday 15th and Saturday 16th December at TDC Automotive Division, City Drugstore Nevis, TDC Home and Building Depot, and shop TDCGroup.com and pay no VAT. You heard right, that's on us. This weekend, go where the savings are. Shop with TDC, your VAT Day specialist. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to another edition of Inside the News. I'm German Abel, sitting in once again today, and as per usual, Saturday morning. It's a busy day here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's pretty warm outside. Port Zante is buzzing as usual. It's another busy cruise ship day here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Well, you're here with me on Inside the News for the next better part of 2.5 hours or 2 hours thereabout, as we dive deeper into the major happenings for this week here in St. Kitts and Nevis, across the region and internationally. Yes, and internationally. And we had quite a busy news cycle locally, regionally, and internationally. As you all know, this week we had the reading of the budget and the start of the debates We also had VAT Day yesterday, and it continues again today. So if you didn't get anything yesterday, you can go to the supermarkets and shop, shop, shop. Yes, but I'm here keeping you company until you decide to go shopping. Today is Saturday, December 16th. Yes, it's almost Christmas time. And we also had the opening of Carnival last evening. What a spectacle that was. It's very interesting, but it officially kickstarts Carnival and the Christmas period as well. But nevertheless, we have to jump into our discussions for today. It was a very, very busy news week. As I said earlier, we had the budget. The Prime Minister read the budget during the week, and we saw a number of initiatives being tabled that speaks to or sought to tackle the inflation and challenges ordinary men and women face here in St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as priority spending for the government heading into the new year, one of which includes allocations for the construction of the new Baxter High School. When I passed there this morning, work continue in terms of demolition and clearing the ground there. We heard that public servants basically got half added onto their salary as part of a bonus, and those within the private sector will also get a $500 top up, as I would say, for Christmas. According to the Prime Minister, he didn't want to leave those within the private sector out. Additionally, across the region, we saw the big meeting between Guyana and Venezuela surrounding their border issue down there. Yes, they met this week, Wednesday, Thursday, about to the presidents of both Venezuela and Guyana met in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they came to a number of amicable decisions. But again, there was no discussion surrounding the border itself and the 2/3 request of Venezuela and the referendum that was sought. But they came to a number of conclusions over in St. Vincent, and it was widely covered by regional and international media. St. Vincent got a lot of mileage, as they would say, out of this whole thing. Even people who did not know of St. Vincent, they would have heard about St. Vincent all through this week surrounding the whole discussion, especially when the idea came up that they will be meeting, the two leaders will be meeting in Kingstown. They met at Argyle International Airport, which was really, really buzzing this week. But yes, nevertheless, it was a very busy week. Internationally, now, again, we had a number of reports. Again, we heard last evening that Israel accidentally killed three of the hostages who were held by Hamas. They took them for Hamas, quote-unquote, terrorists, and they accidentally killed them. I don't know how that is possible, but that was the word coming out of Israel yesterday afternoon, that they accidentally did that. But nevertheless, that war continues, and Ukraine and Russia, that seemingly isn't going to end anytime soon, but we all pray that it ends very, very soon. But nevertheless, we're here today and we're going to be discussing the budget, getting your thoughts. We're supposed to be joined momentarily by Mr. Dwyer Astafan, sometime during the program to discuss that. And we're also on the schedule, we're supposed to have the People's Action Movement also joining us on the program. But at 12:31 thereabout, we'll get the media's perspective on the budget and how they go about covering the budget and the budget cycle itself. What do they look for? Their expectations. How do they dissect the numbers? Make it, as somebody said, quote unquote, make it make sense for you. But in official language, how do they report on it to get you to understand what the numbers mean and how it will impact you? But as I say, when I'm in the hot seat here on Inside the News, yes, we tend to go beyond the politics and the news to see how these issues impact you in your daily lives here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and how you can better be able to benefit from some of these changes. But we'll come back here and then we'll hear a bit from the Prime Minister talking about Social Security and some of the changes that are coming on stream. And then we also get a piece from him about the budget in parts of his presentation that he made to the National Assembly, the figures and all of that. But there's still some information that's lacking, but we'll try to get that clarified and all of that here on Inside the News. But we'll take a quick break, and then when we're on the other side of the break, we'll hear a bit more from the Prime Minister's presentation during the budget.
TDC, your VAT Day specialist, is giving you more reasons to save this holiday season. Shop your way on Friday 15th and Saturday 16th December at TDC Automotive Division, City Drugstore Nevis, TDC Home and Building Depot, and shop TDCGroup.com and pay no VAT. You heard right, that's on us. This weekend, go where the savings are. Shop with TDC, your VAT Day specialist. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
And we're back with more Inside the News. So yes, as I was saying, this week was budget. We also heard a bit on climate change, its impact, health, and all of that. But right now we want to hear a bit from the Prime Minister, who is going to be talking about the Social Security and some of the changes that are going to be instituted come 2024.
We are seeking to transform Social Security into a model for the region. We are designing the reforms that will position the institution and its members to thrive for years to come. Madam Speaker, the first reform changes, and I want to say these changes do not come with any increase in your Social Security payment. Again, I met with the managing director and the chair. The actuary or actuarian looked at this, and therefore our recommendations were carried without an increase in payment. But this will benefit a certain class of persons, Madam Speaker, because again, we want to end poverty. Madam Speaker, the first reform changes will come into effect on 1st January 2024 with increases to pension amounts paid to two of our pension groups, namely the age contributory pensioners and the non-contributory pensioners, or the assistance group. The minimum age pension will increase, Madam Speaker, from presently the Social Security minimum payment to those who qualify is $430. Those who receive that $430 are those who would have worked for the least amount. And therefore the contributions would be small. And their payments in retirement is paid out based on the overall contribution. So I asked them to look at, without increasing the payments or deductions or contributions from our people, can you increase that by at least 10 to 15%? the actuarian came back and said he can increase it to 16.3%. And so I want to announce that these persons who are mainly the poor elderly, who are the poorest among us, they would see an increase from $430 to $500 per month. Madam Speaker, the assistance pension, this is an assistance given to persons who do not meet the criteria for Social Security, but as to help them, Social Security set up an assistance to them because it's a smaller number. And Social Security had a plan where they used to pay them $255 per month. And I said, how much can we increase to without having to increase the contributions? And I want to say today, Madam Speaker, we were able to increase it by 37.3% from $255 to $350 per month. Madam Speaker, more to go. So these changes will impact 772 aged pensioners and 314 assistance pensioners currently in the Social Security system. Efforts are being made to ensure that the number of non-contributory pensioners remain at a minimum through education, compliance, and social programs. Madam Speaker, we are saying to our people, please contribute to Social Security. It's critically important. Critically important. I remember sometimes when I'm in my office working, I get so busy, I might forget a month or two, and I have to rush down to Social Security. I tell them, please call me, because sometimes you get busy and you can forget. But it's important that you make sure that you pay Social Security. So I have asked them to look into an IT system that can send alerts to people. Because if I used to get an alert, that wouldn't be a problem. And then you set it up in such a way that the alert come, I press a button, and the money gone from my account to your account. That is how we want to do it. Because people can miss payments just because you're just busy. But if we use the technology, we can improve collection and compliance. So we want to include in. Madam Speaker, we also ask them that a lot of the elderly who contribute, when they pass, funeral costs have gone up. Can you help these families as well? And so they have increased it from $2,500 to $3,500. 40% increase, Madam Speaker. And this is not going to result in an increase in contributions. This is what Social Security is able to do now. Keeping in mind that when Robert Bratcher, first national hero, His Excellency, Sir, with his team in the 1970s, brought on Social Security as the largest, most secure social safety net, this was the intention. Create a fund that can protect the people when they need it most. Whether when they're retired, they get ill, they get injured, they get pregnant, whatever the situation might be. And so Social Security has to keep with that mandate. But we have a responsibility as a people as well. We have to do our part. Contribute. Remember in 1970s when this was done, and he said it, he faced a lot of opposition because he had to take out people's money, and people were poor then. But he told them, trust me, you will be happy that I take it, and the people trusted him. We have a long history that Social Security works, so it's easy for us to sell it. Protect your Social Security. And I ask in Social Security to innovate, come up with new ways, continue to be that beacon that you have been over these many years. And so we were able to make these adjustments to affect positively the most vulnerable without asking for increased contributions. Only a Labour government can do that. We brought Social Security and we advanced in Social Security.
Number 8.
So on Social Security, Madam Speaker, in 2024, the board would earmark on a program of stakeholder engagement to sensitize citizens and residents on the other changes that will be made to our Social Security system. Madam Speaker, it is crucial that our people contribute to Social Security or the Social Security system to ensure its solvency and its provision of meaningful support to beneficiaries. By actively participating, individuals contribute to the collective well-being, helping to maintain the system's financial health, and also its ability to provide crucial assistance during various life stages such as retirement and unexpected challenges.
People make the world go
TDC, your VAT Day specialist, is giving you more reasons to save this holiday season. Shop your way on Friday 15th and Saturday 16th December at TDC Automotive Division, City Drugstore Nevis, TDC Home and Building Depot, and shop TDCGroup.com and pay no VAT. You heard right, that's on us. This weekend, go where the savings are. Shop with TDC, your VAT Day specialist. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And yes, there you had it. That was a bit of the Prime Minister talking about some of the changes to Social Security heading into the new year. So, as I said, that's our discussion for today here on Inside the News. The budget. How is this going to impact you? I just want to get your feedback in terms of what you heard from the Prime Minister, from the ministers thus far, and the opposition when it comes to the budget itself, right? Much of what the Prime Minister indicated, including the increase for civil servants, the GAE workers, making them pensionable, and so forth. Is this an initiative that you think is long in coming? You think more should have been included in the budget? And what you think should be our priority focus area as we head into 2024? You know, our neighbors, Antigua and Barbuda, actually read their budget yesterday. I've not been able to dissect that either. But as we here in St. Kitts and Nevis prepare, as we prepare to head into the new year, what should we be focusing on in terms of sustainability and the development of the island in and of itself? Because all of us live here, regardless of if we run away today or tomorrow, we still would want to see the betterment for St. Kitts and Nevis and its people, right? Do you think we should have gotten a further increase? Do you think we should have gotten a further dividend payment and increase? We got $500 earlier this year. You know, do you think that the 8% was warranted for public servants? Should they have gotten even more, considering the level of inflation and the possibility of further shocks in 2024? So these are all the things that we have to take into consideration as we dive deeper into the whole issue of the budget and our expectations. Were those expectations met? Right. But I want to also, you know, just quickly jump to another clip from the Prime Minister this week, where he outlined some of the benefits for public servants. That's one. Also, something that we should also take into consideration when we look at the budget. I know, and you know, a little while ago we had this discussion upstairs in the newsroom. Are we as a people in society even considering what the budget meant for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis? Right. This question comes against the backdrop. Yes, this question comes against the backdrop of this whole issue where people were just primarily focusing on, they were just primarily focusing on whether or not the Prime Minister was going to announce a double salary for Kittitians and Nevisians, right? Yes, that was primarily what a lot of people were waiting. So a lot of people sat through the 5-hour presentation to figure out whether or not a double salary was going to be announced for the Christmas period. But at the same time, as we, you know, a lot of us, well, not us, but a lot of people in the public sector were looking at that. We were not looking at the numbers themselves, the debt level, whether or not we spent more than what we made in terms of the budget last year. What was the revenues garnered from all the government's activities, CBI, taxes, and all of that. We did not take that into consideration, because when I saw some of the comments on the live stream, right, it I don't want to say it baffled me, but it also comes back to the whole point of whether or not we as a society actually sit down and educate ourselves in terms of dollars and cents, government spending, government revenue. We might argue that it's not directly impacting us, because I don't want to know who fly where, because it's not impacting me, right? But if we continue to operate in the red, as the Prime Minister was saying when he took office and all of that, we keep getting dividends. You know, we got 2 or 3 this year from CBI. How is all of this fitting into this whole apparatus of government? And I think this is something that we as an entire society need to look at. We need to begin to educate ourselves, and I think I call on civil society organization, the private sector, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, to do more to get people to understand the implications of government spending, government's position on certain policies and issues within the budget. Why are we allocating $100+ million to education? Why are we only giving creative economy 20 million or so, right? These are the sort of things. I mean, we can only come on, and this is a question I'll pose to Mr. Kevin Brown of WINNFM's newsroom. When he comes on a bit later in the program, what do they look for, and how do they tell the story of the budget, and how what the Prime Minister said in 5.5 hours or 6 hours thereabout, to make it resonate with the people in St. Kitts and Nevis? Because let's be frank, not a lot of people pay attention to what is actually transpiring upstairs, because it's not something that we really care. I mean, I layman might say, I don't want to sit down to listen to the Prime Minister talk for 5 hours, who is the Minister of Finance, to talk for 5 hours. All we want is for the news people to come out and tell us what exactly transpired and how what is happening there is benefiting me. Let's be frank. And this goes on both sides of the political spectrum, whether or not you support the government or you're opposing the government. So all of these things must be taken into consideration when we dive deeper into the budget. And I think the private sector needs to do a bit more in terms of educating, along with the media educating the public in general about what is said. The politicians also have to do it. I mean, the question was asked earlier this week when we had climate change, when they had the climate change press conference. How is this impacting the small man in St. Kitts and Nevis, right? Because at the end of the day, if you don't resonate what you're talking about with the small man You could talk today or tomorrow. Nobody's going to pay you any attention if it's technical language. And I don't necessarily believe that a lot of how what is said is actually is getting to people who do not understand technical language and jargons and all of these speeches that we have. So that's us here. We're going to try to dive a bit deeper into some of what is said and how that's impacting the small man in St. Kitts and Nevis. But we will continue the discussion here on Inside the News with more from the Prime Minister's, more excerpts from the Prime Minister's 5.5-hour budget presentation. I mean, somebody sent me a message saying, listen, we could have done a whole lot of discussions around the country within that 5 hours. But that's for another discussion.
People make the world go round. People make the world go round. People make the world go round. People make the world go round.
But yes, we had an interesting discussion. The budget is on debates were put on pause yesterday to facilitate the number of activities that we had yesterday, and it will resume on Monday. So yes.
People make the world go round.
TDC, your Fat Day specialist, is giving you more reasons to save this holiday season. Shop your way on Friday 15th and Saturday 16th December at TDC Automotive Division, City Drugstore Nevis, TDC Home and Building Depot, and shop TDCGroup.com and pay no VAT. You heard right, that's on us. This weekend, go where the savings are. Shop with TDC, your Fat Day specialist. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
And we are back here on Inside the News. I'm German Abel, sitting in today here on Inside the News. And we're taking a look a bit at the budget. We're hearing bits and pieces of what the Prime Minister had to say. You know, how it's, especially those parts where let me put it this way, the parts that will directly impact citizens and residents here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We heard a number of measures are going to be implemented, and changes to benefit. For example, public servants will be receiving an 8% salary bump in January. And this is something that many people would have been calling for, rather some economists, and the general public would have been calling for a bump in public servants' pay heading into after Christmas, because they would receive the double salaries, but at the end of the day, when January comes, February comes, there's no reflective increase, and they go back to that ordinary salary that they have. Right. So the Prime Minister did indicate that a number of changes were going to be instituted that would benefit public servants. One, they will be receiving an 8% increase, but 3% goes towards a social assistance fund in terms of, I don't exactly remember what it is. But yeah, so that 3% goes there, and the 5% is what's going to be the indirect benefit, the direct benefits to the salaries of workers. We also saw pensioners are going to get an increase. Private sector workers are going to get benefits for Christmas, and a number of other sweeping benefits that are to come in 2024, and that's welcome for those here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And as we hear, the Prime Minister did commend public servants for the hard work that they would have done through the year, and he is saying that they deserve some recognition and benefits for all the hard work that they would have undertaken throughout the year. So we should give them kudos for that. And we go back and we hear a bit more from the Prime Minister now, from the budget.
Workers in the public service continue to work hard to enable the government to deliver quality services to the public. Their dedication is commendable, and their commitment to their duties has not gone unnoticed. We are cognizant of the fact that they are also affected by the inflationary pressures, which can result in some difficulties and deterioration of their living standards. We are also determined that the civil servants who fall under the new pension plan, this has to be listened to carefully, who fall under the new pension arrangements would not experience reduced income as a result of the commencement of the contributory pension plan. Very important that you understand that. They are going to ensure that you are not affected negatively, and I'll tell you how. As a caring government, as I said, we will not turn a blind eye. It therefore gives me great pleasure to announce a general salary increase of 8% effective 1st January 2024 for all civil servants and pensioners. 8% salary increase for all civil servants, Madam Speaker. And pensioners. Again, I'm not finished yet. This is just the start. We are not finished yet. We are saying that civil servants will get an 8% increase in salary. So the reason why we are making sure that we do that is that when your deduction comes to add to the pension, which is your money, you are not disadvantaged. You will actually see an overall increase of 5%. You will see an overall increase instead of a decrease, and you can comfortably contribute to the pension fund, which will be sustainable in the long term, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this increase reflects our appreciation for the contribution to government services, as we firmly believe that the efforts of the civil service must not go unnoticed. This will also be for pensioners as well, Madam Speaker. So we are going to see that they get an increase. Again, we are on the principle that if you get an increase, you'll have more money, you can approach institutions better, you can invest better, more money when you retire. Think about it, Madam Speaker. So we are empowering people. Madam Speaker, so we hope that this increase will positively impact our civil servants, improve their morale, and encourage each and every civil servant to continue to work hard and strive for excellence as we march along our journey to the realization of a sustainable island state. What we are creating is a sustainable pension situation. Madam Speaker, the commitment of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration to the well-being and financial education of our young population is unwavering. I'll come in again at the end. In pursuit of this commitment, Madam Speaker, you remember, I'm coming back to the civil servants, we're done yet. But remember, I told you that part of the vision of the Labour Party is to make sure that all of our young people are well taken care of. Madam Speaker, When people just out there talking double salary, we say them they're left behind. We're talking increase, we're talking the pension, we're talking resetting the financial architecture, we're talking all kind of things. They're left behind in the dust. So, Madam Speaker, I'm out of touch with people. In pursuit of this commitment, we present a groundbreaking initiative designed to revolutionize the financial landscape for our youth, one that will instill financial responsibility and investment knowledge here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Madam Speaker, in collaboration with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and I want to thank the ECCB and other stakeholders, our government will spearhead a comprehensive financial education and saving program for our people, our young people, in both St. Kitts and Nevis, covering crucial topics like budgeting, saving, investing, entrepreneurship, and understanding financial markets. This program will empower our youth and the knowledge needed to navigate the complexities of the financial world. Madam Speaker, the savings aspect of this initiative is equally revolutionary. Before I make the announcement, Madam Speaker, I want to say that we have to end poverty in St. Kitts and Nevis. But you end poverty by investing in people, educating them. Our people must be well educated when it comes to finances, how to invest, what to invest in, how to grow money, how to build wealth. The idea is how to build wealth and escape the scourge of poverty.
Generational wealth.
Generational wealth, Madam Speaker. That is what Labour started in 1932, and the promise to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis is that this party will do the good that it will do to end hardships and give you a chance to live a fruitful and happy life. That is the promise. So the mandate is clear since 1932, Madam Speaker. That is why when the baton is passed on, there is no doubt as to what to do. When I pass on the baton, the next person will know exactly what to do for the good that you can do. Liberate your people. Empower your people. You can't just empower people with a handout. You have to educate people and invest in them. Let them build wealth. Our young people will become the most educated persons in the Caribbean per capita when it comes to understanding the finance world. We are setting up their program, Madam Speaker, and on their laptops and on their iPads, they will have that financial education. This committee, and I want to thank the ECCB for helping us and partnering with us to teach our people and educate them. That is why I'm saying to our young people, forget the gang, come and learn how to grow money. We're going to invest in you. This is a serious matter, Madam Speaker. And how are we going to start to do it? And I now make my announcement. Every young citizen in St. Kitts and in Nevis, because Nevis must never be left behind, Madam Speaker. The old argument of the past, I'm interested in them. Every young citizen, aged 5 to 18, Madam Speaker, will be endowed with a savings account, initially funded with EC $1,000, Madam Speaker. Every child, I don't care where you find them, Madam Speaker, up in Monkey Hill, in Cayon, in Irish Town, in Gingerland, in Buckleys, in Camps, in McKnight, in Parson Ground, Newton Ground.
And no matter how much children in the house.
And no matter how much all of them get. So if it's 5 children, each one of them get an account.
You understand?
And let's go to Nevis. You got Butlers in Nevis?
Yeah.
Cotton Ground in Nevis? Which one? Hanley's Road. Morning Star. St. James. Zion. Rollins. Charlestown. Round Hill. Boyd's. Challengers, Old Road. Fig Tree, Sandy Point, Cleverly Hill,
Tabernacle.
Tabernacle, Atlas, Christchurch, wherever our children are found. But you know the great state can never be excluded. The great state goes without mentioning. Wherever this child is found, that child will get an account of $1,000
For savings.
To go. But here what else we're going to do, Madam Speaker? Because once we start the financial education, the committee is putting forward a number of things where about $500 of this money will be used to buy shares in companies, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, can you
And
imagine?
there you had it. That was bits and pieces of the Prime Minister giving an overview of exactly some of the benefits in the budget for people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But we'll go to the phone line and take this caller. Well, we lost that caller. Take this other caller. Well, we missed those two callers there. But yes, that was what the Prime Minister was saying, and what struck a lot of people, and which a lot of people out there have been indicating that one of the good initiatives was what he said at the end there, in terms of financial education and providing that savings account for every child here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes, so that now ensures that the child will be thinking, and you now begin to drive home the point of saving for a rainy day. And that's something interesting that we saw actually popping up there, because we've always been talking about financial literacy. We know the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and some financial institutions do it here in St. Kitts and Nevis, but the direct education is key, and I think that's something that has been missing for quite some time here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We do not have people educating the general public about savings, and also we don't have some people in the public wanting to accept that education to build their capacity. You know, a friend of mine, really good friend of mine, very old gentleman. Before I make that point, let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
And to all the listeners, and greetings once more in the name of Jesus Christ, he who is the only Savior of his elect chosen sinners from hell and from their sin, and he who is the second person of the eternal Trinity. Now, first of all, I would like to say that in order to solve our problem, we have to deal with everything the Bible way. Because actually, not dealing with things the Bible way is part of the problem. Is the root cause of the problem. Disobeying the Bible is the root cause of all of our problems. And the Bible gives us the way to go in all areas of life and human existence. For example, government forcing the private sector to increase the employees' salaries goes against the Bible, and therefore it is counterproductive.
Okay, on that point, on that point, okay, and I take your argument that it goes against the Bible's way, right? But what are we supposed to do if inflation has hit, let's say, 10%? What are we supposed to do as a society? Let's sit down and rationalize it. What are we supposed to do as a society if inflation goes up, and that inflation then trickles down to every other facet of society? So are we not supposed to increase wages and salaries of people?
Well, actually, I'm going to answer that. When you do it, when you go against the Bible and you do that, what you actually do, it's going to result in further increase in the unemployment of the poor, especially those who are working at minimum wage level. You're pricing them out of the job market. Because, for example, an employer is going to, if he's barely making it, he's going to, and he have to increase his minimum wage. He's going to cut down even more on employment, especially those at minimum wage, because he's going to assess people even more as to whether you're worth the minimum wage or not. And many don't worth it. The employers, in the estimation, going to say many don't worth it, and that's going to even increase unemployment even more.
I take that point, right, and that's a valid argument because you know.
The
Long
way to
story
deal
short.
with it, the biblical way to deal with the issue. You want to say something? Sorry.
No. Go ahead. Make your point.
Yeah. The biblical way to deal with the issue is to increase the spending power of the dollar. That is the biblical way to go. Increase the spending power of the dollar, which is most helpful financially to everybody, including and especially including the poor. Because that means your dollar will be able to buy much more the more you increase the spending power of it. And one of the things we have to do, if we are serious about helping the poor, one of the things we have to do in increasing the spending power of the dollar is to get rid of these agency policies where government decide that if you is an agent for something, only you can bring in that something that you are selling, the name, brand, etc., and nobody else can bring it in. And therefore, what happens is that you go against the capitalist free market, which is what the Bible teaches. You go against it, and because you have these agents' protection, you eliminate competition.
Yeah, but also, caller. I see where you're going, but if you're telling me that my business cannot hold a monopoly on a particular good or service, even though I have this arrangement with a particular entity, then you're technically infringing on the rights of the business. And sorry, the term is not coming to mind.
Saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying whatever you and any other private organization have, that's between you. But what I'm saying, government is not supposed to get involved in that and ensure that nobody else could bring it in. You and that private agency, you have to make whatever arrangement you all want. But government is supposed to keep itself out of that equation.
Yeah,
and
that is
you all
true.
could enforce
That
it,
is
you all
true, right,
enforce it,
caller?
but
But at the
government
same
is for the
time,
party.
yeah, that is true. But at the same time, I can only argue that based on what the government see fit at the time, they will enter that arrangement. Yes, and I take your point that some businesses and certain agreements may not be suitable, but the government has to make a decision on that. But I'll give you 45 seconds to make your
the
point.
biblical decision to keep out of that and let you and whoever make whatever decision you all want to make, and however you all could enforce it legitimately, you all do so, but government supposed to keep support of that. You know, just the other day since the budget, I heard a busman ask, well, what about us now? When we going to be able to increase our bus fare? And that's the thing, I don't know, if you check it out, every time the government increases the minimum wage and the private sector, I mean, if you want to increase it and its own employee, that's okay. But when it comes to the private sector, every time the government increase the minimum wage and the private sector, prices always in the end go up, and price control is not the answer, because that in itself is also unbiblical as well. Go against the Bible, and that have many negative and deadly repercussions. It's very counterproductive. For example, price control, you implement that, you create black markets, you create shortages in goods and services, and so on and so on. So only free market capitalism, as taught in the Bible, is the only economic model that works, because God knows best. He knows how He created us. He knows how we operate. He knows our evil, wicked human nature and heart.
Okay, caller.
And so therefore, that is why the Bible says, seek wisdom from its pages.
Caller, thanks. I sorry I have to cut you, but it's just about time for the news. You can call back in after the program to share your after the news and the second hour to share your thoughts and perspective on the economy. But at this point in time, we have to break to take the headline news. Yes, it's that time already. And then we'll continue with the discussion. Like I said, we're supposed to have two representatives here to discuss the budget. Hopefully they come in the second hour, and then we'll hear a bit from the newsroom here at WINNFM in terms of their perspective on covering the budget, the news, and how do they make it so that you can digest what the government has been saying and the arguments on both sides of the political aisle in Parliament. So to draw it down to the layman's side for you here in St. Kitts and Nevis and our partners across the region who, come to us to get some information. Come to us to get some information when it comes to the whole budget and news and information from here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So yes, that's what we have lined up for you in the second half of the program. And don't forget, the budget continues on Monday. But we'll be back with more Inside the News on the other side of the break.
Found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With the WINNFM Midday News, I am Kevon Brown. Our top stories: questions raised concerning the Financial Education and Savings Program announced in Budget Address. St. Lucia Prime Minister welcomes outcome of Venezuela-Guyana talks. Internationally, attacks from Houthi-controlled Yemen hits 2 ships, U.S. officials say. Now the details. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis has laid out several teasers of plans for 2024, whether it's through Social Security reforms, the increase in minimum wage rate, or the 8% increase in salary for civil servants. Questions continue to mount as additional details on the initiatives are needed, especially those involving the youth financial education. Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew, during the 2024 budget address on December 13, 2023, announced that the government of St. Kitts and Nevis plans to establish a financial education and savings program. The program is a collaborative effort between the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, and other stakeholders focused on enhancing the financial literacy and status of the nation's youth.
Every young citizen aged 5 to 18, Madam Speaker, will be endowed with a savings account initially funded with EC $1,000, Madam Speaker. Every child, I don't care where you find them, Madam Speaker, up in Monkey Hill, in Cayon, in Irishtown, in Gingerland, in Buckley's, in Camps, in McKnight, in Parson Ground, Newton Ground.
And no matter how much children in the house.
And no matter how much all of them get. So if it's 5 children, each one of them get an account. And let's go to Nevis. You got Butlers in Nevis? Cotton Ground in Nevis? Which one? Hanley's Road. Morning Star. St. James. Zion. Rollins.
Of the $1,000, $500 will be invested in shares of government majority-owned companies, which, according to the Prime Minister, includes the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank and the cable after going public.
Madam Speaker, this initiative is not just about economic growth, it is about empowering the next generation to be architects of their own financial destiny and contributors to the sustained prosperity of our nation.
More than 8,000 young people between the age of 5 and 18 will benefit, and as the financial investment is designed for long-term impact, access will be limited for a specific period. While it is noted that the finer details are still being refined by a task force with the goal of launching the initiative in 2024, some financial experts have questions and concerns about the program's implementation.
Everything could have the best intentions, but the implementation might not necessarily be. For example, what I don't know is the frequency of, say, this 1,000. This is a one-time injection. What I don't know is the accessibility to the accounts. What I don't know if let's say, for example, there's shares in government entities. How do we value these entities? Will the losses be passed on to these accounts? Because if the losses are not passed on to the accounts, let's say, for example, we know Skellig had some financial challenges, and let's say there's a net loss in the annual year, and we do the valuation at the end. Well, technically, whenever the company has a loss, there's a negative effect on share price. Well, with that share price, if Skellig, for example, shares are in this account, will that then be passed on to these accounts, or will the government maintain and make it riskless in that they're the one responsible for all the investment risks. So that's part of it. There's a lot of complexity that's built into it. I celebrate the program, but again, the devil is in the details.
Dr. Terence Martin, Assistant Professor of Finance at UT Pan American, during the December 15th broadcast of Wynn's Island Tea. Local accountant Schneiderman Warner had other questions regarding who qualifies as a citizen and whether there would be any penalties for specific activities on the accounts after the specified time has passed regarding access to the accountant's shares.
Without any detail, like you, I'm in the dark because there was no information given. They were just, they were what they were. I would expect that it probably apply to corporations such as the National Bank Group, probably,
that makes sense.
Probably the cable, and these are companies that are publicly traded, and it will therefore give the investors, the shareholders, an opportunity to appreciate the art of investing. Of course, we know that our stock exchange here is really a stock exchange in name rather than any real trading of stocks and shares, but nonetheless, it could provide some form of education to the shareholders. The questions I have on just this one alone are many. Who are the beneficiaries of these 500 and 500? Every citizen between the age of 5 and 18? Every citizen who is resident between the age of 5 and 18? Everyone who is resident between the age of 5 and 18? And since we do not, as say in the United States, become identified as part of the country by getting a social security number upon birth, most people in St. Kitts and Nevis don't have a social security number until they get to the age of 16. And so how are we going to identify these people? What restrictions are being placed on these shares and this cash? Are you obliged to keep it for a minimum of X period of time, let's say 3 years, and you cannot dip into it for any reason before that? Since we don't have an income tax system, how do you penalize someone who chooses to cash in before that time of, let's say, the 3 years that you must keep it? And so these are issues that, while spelling out the offer is great, the details, how it will be managed, how it will be enforced, those are conspicuously absent from the proclamation.
Yes.
Martin also questioned the benefits based on the age gaps, children starting at 5 versus those who begin at 17.
And the other thing is the frequency of this contribution. If it's one time, $1,000, let's say at 5, $1,000 over 5 years at the average rate of 6% for 13 years, it's going to be something, but it's not really that significant. And is it unfair for the person that is 17? Right, if they get that sort of benefit from the government in this account, let's say the 5-year-old versus the 17-year-old, the 5-year-old is going to benefit a lot more than the 17-year-old. So how are you going to offset the loss of consumer surplus, for want of a better word, to the 17-year-old? It's a great program, but we need to know more. There have to be terms and conditions, or maybe even self. One person asked me, does this mean that my child that was born in the U.S. that is now hold dual citizenship with St. Kitts and Nevis, are they excluded? We don't know. And I don't think in that case they would be. But so it's a positive step. And I think that's why it's very general in when it would be launched, because there are a lot of details to be worked out.
More details about the program are expected in 2024 as the government gets closer to the launch of the program. Not just the financial aspects of the program, but the implementation of the initiative's education arm. In regional news, St. Lucia Prime Minister welcomes outcome of Venezuela-Guyana talks. HDS St. Lucia has that story.
Opposition leader Alain Chasny had poured cold water on a planned meeting in St. Vincent and the Grenadines brokered by CARICOM between the leaders of Venezuela and Guyana on the simmering dispute. The opposition, UWP, had called on the Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, to go it alone bilaterally on the foreign policy issue and ignore the diplomatic channels of CARICOM, as has been the norm for many years. Chasney, speaking to reporters this week, wanted a stern message sent to Venezuela.
This issue with Guyana, for Venezuela to all of a sudden have a referendum against the decision of the international courts, to then act on that referendum, to want to lay claim to land and say you're going to appoint a cabinet and do all those things, and then for leaders of CARICOM to say they're going to have a meeting, I agree with Sir Sonny Ramphal. A meeting to discuss what? It's in court. All Venezuela has to be told is that you need to cease and desist what you're doing because it's disrupting and jeopardizing a zone of peace in our region.
Guyana and Venezuela have agreed not to use force to settle their dispute over the oil-rich region of Essequibo. Mr. Ali and Mr. Maduro met in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Thursday in a sit-down brokered by St. Vincent Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves, with CARICOM heads in attendance. He read out a 3-page joint declaration.
Agreed that Guyana and Venezuela, directly or indirectly, will not threaten or use force against one another in any circumstances, including those consequential to any existing controversies between the two states. 2. Agreed that any controversies between the two states will be resolved in accordance with international law, including the Geneva Agreement dated February 17, 1966. 3. Committed to the pursuance of good neighborliness, peaceful coexistence, and the unity of Latin America and the Caribbean. 4. Noted Guyana's assertion that it is committed to the process and procedures of the International Court of Justice for the resolution of the border controversy. Noted Venezuela's assertion of its lack of consent and lack of recognition of the International Court of Justice and its jurisdiction in the border controversy. 5. Agreed to continue dialogue on any other pending matters of mutual importance to the two countries.
Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Pierre, who attended the dialogue, believes he made the right call by working with regional allies on the complex foreign policy issue. Pierre, a staunch integrationist, called it a victory for CARICOM.
It showed maturity, it showed leadership, and it showed that when we sit and we speak to each other, we can achieve so much. Both President Maduro and President Ali must be complimented for the level of statesmanship that they displayed yesterday. You know, there had been many comments about what should have been said and what should not have been said. But I'd always taken the position, and I'm very happy that I have been, again, I've proven to be correct when I took the position that we had to deal with that from a CARICOM perspective. Individual prime ministers should not have been going over the place saying whatever they want to anybody else. We took a CARICOM position. CARICOM stood firm under the leadership of Comrade Ralph Gonsalves and Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, and there was a representative of the government of Brazil who was there, who acted. And it was a very sober, very mature meeting. I am not sure whether many realize the repercussions of what could have happened if we didn't get at least to these two countries talking to each other.
Pierre added that he was happy St. Lucia and other CARICOM states took a unified position to engage with both sides rather than individual leaders making statements that could inflame matters. The Prime Minister expressed his extreme pleasure at Thursday's diplomatic breakthrough.
We now bring you these international reports.
At a protest in support of Palestinians in Yemen on Friday, Houthi military spokesman Yahya Sarriya said the Iran-aligned group had attacked 2 more commercial ships heading for Israel.
The Marine forces of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a military operation against 2 ships, MSC Alanya and MSC Palladium, that were heading to the Israeli entity. They were targeted by 2 Marine rockets. The targeting operation came after the refusal of their crews to respond to the calls of Yemeni Marine forces, as well as the fiery warning messages.
A U.S. defense official confirmed there were 2 attacks which he said caused fires on board, though one was not on a ship sighted by the Houthis. Yemen's Houthis have been attacking vessels in Red Sea shipping lanes and firing drones and missiles at Israel, saying they aim to support the Palestinians as Hamas and Israel wage war. The Houthis, who rule much of Yemen, have vowed they will continue with their attacks until Israel stops its offensive in the Gaza Strip. Germany's foreign minister said one of the ships attacked on Friday was German-owned and called for the immediate end to such actions by the Houthis. She also emphasized that the security threat to Israel comes not only from Hamas in Gaza, but also from the Houthis. Meanwhile, Danish shipping company AP Møller-Mærsk told Reuters Friday it will pause all container shipments through the Red Sea until further notice. This comes after a missile on Thursday missed its Maersk Gibraltar ship, and a separate container vessel suffered another attack on Friday. When asked about the Houthi actions, Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan on Friday expressed concern about their impact.
Of course, we are concerned about the potential for escalation. Our region is very complex, and we do not need any other conflicts to erupt, and therefore we hope that we will be able to avoid any further escalations in our region.
Later on Friday, White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby highlighted the danger for commercial ships in the Red Sea and said he would have more information about a maritime task force soon.
A jury on Friday ordered Rudy Giuliani to pay more than $148 million in damages to 2 former Georgia election workers he defamed through false accusations that they helped rig the 2020 election against Donald Trump.
The absurdity of the number merely underscores the absurdity of the entire proceeding.
Giuliani, who said he would appeal, spoke outside the courthouse after the ruling.
The comments they received I had nothing to do with. Those comments are abominable, they're deplorable. No defense to it, but I receive comments like that every day.
The jury in federal court in Washington, D.C. found that Giuliani owes the workers Shay Moss and her mother, Ruby Freeman, roughly $73 million to compensate them for the reputational and emotional harm they suffered, and $75 million to punish the former Trump lawyer and one-time New York City mayor for his conduct.
The lies Rudy Giuliani told about me and my mommy after the 2020 presidential election have changed our lives. And the past few years has been devastating. We hope no one ever has to fight so hard just to get your name back.
Rudy Giuliani was not the only one who spread lies about us. And others must be held accountable too. But that is tomorrow's work. For now, I want people to understand this. Money will never solve all of my problems. I can never move back into the house that I called home.
The verdict was reached after an emotional 3 days of testimony in federal court. Giuliani, who publicly claimed he would testify during the trial, ultimately opted not to take the witness stand. He made repeated false claims that a surveillance video showed Moss and Freeman concealing and counting suitcases filled with illegal ballots at a basketball arena in Atlanta that was used to process votes during the 2020 election. Giuliani has faced a series of civil and criminal woes and mounting legal fees since helping to spearhead former President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the election. Giuliani has been criminally charged in the Georgia racketeering case against Trump and several of his allies, in part for targeting Moss and Freeman. He has pleaded not guilty.
medical examiner in Los Angeles has ruled the death of the actor Matthew Perry was an accident from the acute effects of the drug ketamine. The actor, best known of course for playing Chandler Bing in Friends, was found unresponsive in a pool at his home in October. He was 54. Our culture reporter Noor Nanji has more.
Matthew Perry, the actor, was found unresponsive at his pool in his house in LA in October. Now, at the time, a post-mortem examination ruled was inclusive, but on Friday the LA County Medical Examiner put out a statement. It said that he had died from the acute effect of ketamine, and it also listed several other contributing factors to his death. Now, those included drowning and also coronary artery disease and the effects of a drug which is used to treat opioid use disorder. And it ruled that the manner of his death was an accident. Now, at the height of his fame, of course, Matthew Perry had been battling various demons. He had been battling addiction to including painkillers and alcohol, and he'd also attended rehabilitation clinics on multiple occasions. Now, in his memoir, he wrote that he had been mostly sober since 2001, save for about 60 to 70 mishaps.
Yeah, extraordinary career, extraordinary kind of comedy talent, and that outpouring of affection for him when the news first broke. I'm sure now lots of people will be distressed by the details here.
Yeah, that's right. As you say, he was a really well-loved character. And, of course, he rose to fame playing Chandler Bing in the US sitcom Friends, which was following the lives of 6 young people living in New York, battling all sorts of things such as dating and navigating careers and friendship. And he was one of the key characters in that. And it aired for a whole decade between 1994 and 2004. But there was more to Matthew Perry than just Friends. He also starred in numerous movies, including The Whole 9 Yards and then the sequel, The Whole 10 Yards. And he also wrote a play in 2016 called The End of Longing. Now, as I was saying, he was found unresponsive at his home on the 28th of October. Paramedics were called to the scene and pronounced him dead. And then at that point, tributes started flowing in, including in the weeks following his death from his fellow Friends co-stars. Now, the actress Jennifer Aniston, who played Rachel in the sitcom, of course, she said that having to say goodbye to our Matty has been such an insane wave of emotions that she'd never experienced before. And the actor David Schwimmer, who of course played Ross, he thanked Perry for what he called 10 years of laughter and creativity.
Wall Street's main indexes ended mostly higher on Friday, notching their 7th straight week of gains, breaking records along the way. The Dow added more than 0.1% to hit a record close for the 3rd straight day. The S&P, while flat, notched its longest weekly winning streak in more than 6 years, and the Nasdaq, which added more than 0.3%, closed at its highest level in nearly 2 years. But comments Friday by New York Fed President John Williams, who said it was too soon for the central bank to be talking about rate cuts, dampened some of the optimism. His remarks came just 2 days after the Fed, in its policy statement, signaled lower borrowing costs in 2024, sparking a rally in stocks and bonds, pushing yields lower. Luke Stone is senior investment analyst at Winthrop Capital Management.
The 10-year Treasury fell nearly 45 basis points since Wednesday. And I almost think that Fed speak, to a certain degree, can be a policy mechanism. And this might have been a way for Governor Williams to help temper back some of the hope into bond investors. We're seeing rates almost at mid-spring levels, and it's an unprecedented whip in Treasury rates. So this could have just been a mechanism to help kind of put investors back in line.
Among individual movers, shares of Costco jumped to 4.5% after the retailer topped Wall Street estimates for first quarter results due to demand for cheaper groceries. And an index of semiconductor chips had its biggest weekly gain since May, with Broadcom and Intel each gaining more than 2%, and Nvidia up more than 1%.
You are listening to the Midday News on WINNFM 98.9. The headlines Questions raised concerning the financial education and savings program announced in budget address. St. Lucia Prime Minister welcomes outcome of Venezuela-Guyana talks. Internationally, attacks from Houthi-controlled Yemen hits 2 ships, U.S. officials say. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
TDC, your VAT Day specialist, is giving you more reasons to save this holiday season. Shop your way on Friday 15th and Saturday 16th December at TDC Automotive Division, City Drugstore Nevis, TDC Home and Building Depot, and shop TDCGroup.com and pay no VAT. You heard right, that's on us. This weekend, go where the savings are. Shop with TDC, your VAT Day specialist. Terms and conditions apply. TDC, your VAT Day specialist, is giving you more reasons to save this holiday season. Shop your way on Friday 15th and Saturday 16th December at TDC Automotive Division, City Drugstore Nevis, TDC Home and Building Depot, and shop TDCGroup.com and pay no VAT. You heard right, that's on us. This weekend, go where the savings are. Shop with TDC, your VAT Day specialist. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News here on Win FM. I'm German Abel sitting in today. It's a pretty bright day outside, just a little bit of sprinkles now during the midday, a little showers of blessing here in Bastille. And yes, talking about Bastille, it's buzzing, it's Christmas carnival period, and also, there are cruise ships in today. So, Port Zante is seeing the buzz out there today. Yes, so, and also today's VAT day, the second of the 2 VAT reduction days here in Bastille. So you can go out and do your shopping, your Christmas shopping. Christmas is just about, technically it's just about a week away. Yes, and it was just yesterday we started the new year. Just the other day we had Carnival, and then we're having it again now. So, yes, it's one of those years that time just flies. It just flies. But yes, we've seen a lot. We've had a lot throughout. We've seen and heard a lot throughout the year. It's almost we're at the end of it already. But that's how life is sometimes. Time flies and we just have to take it one step at a time. But today we're discussing the budget and what was presented by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance earlier this week. We go to the phone lines and hear from this caller. Caller, turn on your radio, please.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon to the listeners home on the broadcast going here. The budget. I must say, on the budget, the raise of funeral from Social Security, that's a plus for a lot of the poor people. And knowing that the rate that people are dying in the Federation from many causes. Right? The 1,005 up added to the 2,005 they used to get. So people now getting 3,005. That's a big plus for a lot of people, Because you could get a funeral for 8,005, you could get a funeral for 8,000. So it's a big plus for family members and well-wishers and things. To the raise for civil servants and pensioners, I always say so that they should not be giving raise so, and they should not be giving double salary that way. Because look at it, how is it somebody going to be getting $20,000 and you're going to give them the 8% raise? And somebody like me who getting a $1,100 pension, you're going to give me the same 8% raise. You see?
So would you support the idea that the smaller it is, the higher the percentage, and then it comes down that way? So it starts
It goes down. Okay, I have it work out this way, and I tell all the all the government and the advisors this: if you're giving 10, okay, let me work with the 8%, because that's the less we ever get under any government. Dr. Denzel Douglas had give 15, but he spread it out 3 years, 5 every year. Timothy Harris gave a one-time 10% raise right on the bat. And over in Nevis, you see the Honorable Brantley did the same thing. Give a 15%, but he spread it out over 3 years, 5% every year. I mean, I find that it's very insulting and very shameful to civil servants. Up until now, you cannot get a 15 or 20% raise in your federation. And in 2023, 2024, people come telling you 8% raise. And on the high cost of living, on the high...
But Carl, technically it's a 5% increase. The 3% going towards the pension or the contribution towards the pension.
Yes, we know that. Those of us know that. So you only get 5%. Because when they tell you no new taxes, this is where your taxes go. This is where a tax chickly in there is a tax you pay all the time, but this is where you get a raise of a tax. Although you get a raise on your salary. Your salary it's actually a decrease in your salary because you have to contribute to these funds.
But let me ask you a question, Carl. So let's look at what we saw happen in COVID, let's say 3 years, 2020 to 2022, right? We did see some downturn in the economy. We did see the government give double salary during that period. Would you say that the better thing to do heading into 2024, because let's say we stabilize the country or we begin to really turn the corner in terms of economic stability in 2023, let's say use that for argument's sake, would you support the notion or idea that it is better to give an increase than to give the double salary, because now people would feel this 8 or 5% rather than that double salary?
Okay, we're going to do it this way. I'm going to answer the question this way. It is good to give an increase if you're going to give the increase on what we would say.
The inflationary rate?
Yes. Because you cannot give somebody 10,000 who making 10,000 and up a 8% raise. And somebody who making $1,700 in government, they get the same 8% raise. They ain't get no money. They get about $60, $70 there on the money. The person getting $1,700. And then the same $60 gone to Social Security and social levy. So is the person still a move? While the person who getting $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000 gone up another $5,000, $8,000 on the money. How that could be economically developing for the poor and the smaller person? They move, and that's why I always say, if you are giving a raise, the people who you give the 10% or the 15% to the people working on the $3,000. $3,000 down, they get the full 10 or 15%. You working $5,000 and up, you get like a 3% or 2%. I mean, we will never catch you still. You're still gone a significant leap. Even you get 2 or 3% because you're done making 5, 10, 15, 20, $25,000. You get a significant leap while I get 10%, only maybe $200 gone on my money. So you see? And the $200, 160 to 80 something going to Social Security and Social Levy. So you get $20 to buy to drink. That's all left out the $200 enough. So even that, you still ain't move nowhere because you still ain't get that money. That money is put up there if you reach 62. So, and if it's a double salary, the double salary must work that same way too. How you going to get somebody who making $5, $10, $15, and $20 and $25,000 double salary, and you're making $1,700, $1,800, $2,000 double salary? That ain't make no significant purpose to me down there with a $1,700, $1,800, $2,000 salary. So you must do it by percentage. Once your salary a certain amount, you get a little 2% of a percentage like that of the double salary, and let the people with the small money down there get the full double salary because they still ain't reached half of your salary.
Okay.
So we must not do double salary and raise like that because the people making the big salary, you give them a significant leap while the people down there making the small salary ain't moved nowhere because the money gone to Social Security and Social Levy. The other thing in the budget that I am concerned about is this $1,000 for 5 to 16 years.
Yes, thereabout.
Yes. How the Prime Minister, when they come back Monday, if they're coming back, he needs to explain how is that going to work out. Is that every month, every year thing, and how many people is going to get that, and what category of folks is going to get that?
No. Okay, so I was listening to an argument just now. Well, not an argument, but a commentary, and the questions. The two economists, that were on yesterday, financial officials, they did speak a bit about that, but from my understanding, and this also has to be clarified, is that it's going to be a one-off payment of $1,000 in terms of the bank account.
Or monthly payment?
It's not
term payment?
Going to be, no. From my understanding, they're still fine-tuning it, Carl. Nothing has been signed off on. But from how it was explained, it seems as though it's a one-off payment to the children in St. Kitts and Nevis. But then the other question that is going to be raised, that was raised yesterday as well on Island T, is whether or not, and I think you probably heard a bit of it on the news just now, is whether or not this is just for 2024 for when it's launched for that 1 year period, or is it something that is going to continue for children who turn 5 every year?
Yes, those things, that's why I said the Prime Minister need Monday when they come back to clarify that for the nation and the world. Because everybody out here is baffled by it. How much time this is going to be paid, how long it's going to be paid, how many children and what category are you using to give these children, because we want to know how many children, because if you work out the children in St. Kitts, it's more than the working population, and the working population is 25,000 plus. And some schools having up to 5,000, 3,000 and 4,000. So how many children are going to get this? Is it every child that is 5 to 16 years, or you have a category?
From what I just heard, it seems as though all children in St. Kitts and Nevis, in terms of citizens, will benefit from this particular initiative.
So then they're going to work it between the schools, because that is how you're going to find out how many, because you have about almost 100% of the children between there goes to some kind of school.
Yeah, they should have some level of register.
So they should work it out between the educational department with the schools, just like how they did they're doing the laptop system, because you will know, and then you wouldn't leave no child behind.
Yes.
Gone.
All right, Carl, thanks for your input. Yes, so he raised 3 points there. Most of them surrounded the sustainability, the benefits that were announced in the National Assembly in terms of the public sector workers. We go back to the phone lines and we hear from this caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I agree with Carl when it comes on this social security money, but not the one with the debt fund. You know the reason why, sir? Suppose I start to work when I was 18 years and may claim no social security at all for no sickness, nothing. And if I die, I mean to say, all that money that I put in, I only gonna get 3,005? That's not fair. The Social Security Board is supposed to go back to the board, reconsider. Because we poor people, we can't afford, sometimes we can't afford the funeral thing for 10,000, 8,000, 20,000. And the Social Security people have money there. From the time we born, we walk in and we claim the Social Security. That ain't fair. Can't say about that. That's a plus. That ain't a plus. That is no plus at all. They're supposed to reconsider and who put in this amount of money get half of the money or 3/4 of the money. I don't like that. That ain't good at all. That ain't sweet.
So I want to ask you, so can you turn on your radio a little bit for me, please?
I beg your pardon?
Is it your radio? I was getting a feedback a little while.
A radio may have on, radio.
Okay. All right. No, I was getting a feedback. But what I want to ask you, what would you think would be a suitable amount in terms of payment in an instance like that?
How much you think that there should be per month?
No, not per month. So let's say John Doe started working at 18 and John Doe dies at 52 or 60, right? And for argument's sake, he did not claim any sort of benefits, whether it be sickness or time off or anything like that, right?
Man, it's up to them. Look into a fund. Look into a fund and say, well, this person did not claim anything. She died. Let me give the family a tangible. We ain't asking for all. Left some there for somebody else who ain't put in none. But there's a tangible at 3,005. You know how much the funeral them that cost? 20 something. We got to go borrow money and we have money in Social Security. That is what I'm speaking about. That is not fair. Social Security come both and say, oh, we got $1 billion step aside. But what about we who start to work from 18 maybe to 62 or 75 or 70? What about that? They ain't considering that. Man, the poor always feel it. A rich man, a man who rich and put in his Social Security, he ain't want that. He ain't want that. It's we now, it's we that's supposed to tap up. We. Not them out there who done rich, stinking rich. Tell Social Security, yeah?
Okay, so
go back to the drawing board.
Okay, so what I'll do...
Dr. Joe, go back to the drawing board. The can where he kicking, he ain't kicking it hard enough. Yeah, because he say he kicking a can. The can been there all the time. People kicking it. Tell him kick it hard.
Okay, so this is what I'll do for you, caller. Caller, this is what I'll do for you. I believe, I might be wrong, but I suspect Social Security may be on this week on Island T. I don't know what the schedule is like. So that is a question that could be put to them in terms of this entire discussion surrounding a scenario the scenario that you just mentioned there. So they can bring some clarity to it. So I'll ask the people on Island T, should Social Security...
Okay, one more thing before I go, sir. One more thing. Mm-hmm. I hear Dr. Drew bring up an excuse, right? Saying that when he was in office, he ain't pay for 2 months. Dr. Joe making excuse for Garth Wilkins and Mark Grantley who don't pay Social Security.
Caller. No, caller. Hold on. I understand you want to make reference, but please try not to call names at this point.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry about that. Have me apolocated. But stop make excuse for them people who ain't paying people Social Security. Because if me as a poor man can't afford to pay Social Security, I got a man working for me and can't afford to pay Social Security, you know what's going to happen? They're going to send me a letter to go court. What about them big man? What about the rich man?
But caller, to be honest though, caller, to be honest, right? What Social Security has been doing, and it was said, I think there was a report as well here, on one of the ILT programs as well. But what Social Security has been doing is all the people who they would have taken to court, right? They have been publishing the names of all the defaulters who were taken before the court, whether or not it be a small man or a large business. And they've been publishing those on their website.
Well, sweetheart, I didn't hear them names. I don't hear them names. I don't see them names.
They might not be speaking about them, but they've been publishing them on their website. So you can go there because...
But if it's a plain level field, whether you is Donald Trump's son, whether you Bill Gates' son, or whether you is the poor man from Irish Trump's son, everybody supposed to feel this sweet. I don't care what you got. I don't care what you have. If it is for me, it is for everybody. Don't exclude none. You understand? Don't exclude none at all. None. Bring them to justice. We want to see justice in St. Kitts. We want to see justice after justice them prevail. We want to see peace. So let it come to justice first. You understand? Think it ain't sweet no more. So you have a blessed afternoon. Think it ain't sweet no more. I don't care what you do. It ain't sweet. And who is dead?
All right, thanks, caller. So that caller was sharing her perspective there. Again, I just want to say when I'm on here, I don't know whichever program you guys, whoever you want to do it. When we're discussing these issues, I really prefer you not to call or mention anybody's names. For reasons beyond my control, I cannot confirm or substantiate something. I would not give you that platform to do that. Yes, so again, I just want to say that. But yes, so today we're discussing the budget and the implications for all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We go back to the phone. I call her. Good afternoon. Caller, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon to you and to your listeners. I'm calling back again. Now, in the earlier call, I mentioned one of the biblical ways for government to help the poor is to increase this purchasing or spending power of the dollar. And in addition to that, and what I recommended is step out of this protection of agents and let people bring in whatever and to sell whatever. Okay? That is what I recommended. But in addition to that, what also going to need to be done as well to make things even far better. And I believe the agent thing alone would go very far. I believe that would go very far in very significantly decreasing prices and the cost of living. But in addition to that, what would even take it a whole lot, even much more further is at least, at the very least, the continual decreasing of taxes, and that would include having a tax-free port. At minimum, that would include having a tax-free port, and that would help a whole lot. And not only that, where government expense is concerned, biblically speaking, it needs to privatize the overwhelming vast majority of what it is doing, so that its expenses would decrease a whole lot, very, very much. So it will need all of these money, continual increases in money to operate. And the private sector is far better in handling most things than the government sector.
But Carla, as you mentioned that the private sector, what mandate, what thrust or push would I have, or motivation I would have as a private sector entity to do half of what the government is doing? For example, why do I need to build a road? Right?
Because money would be there to make. And the more money that is there to make is the more incentives it provides for investors to go into that area. We have private roads in other parts of the world. And Once there's money to be made in anything, and once you have the market, investors will be attracted.
But Carla, just on that point though, right? Whose responsibility it is to attract the investors?
Money, the market. The market is what going to attract the investors. The making of money is what will attract the investors. Once people see that they could make money, they will flock to wherever they see that they can make money.
Yeah, but
not attract investors than the knowledge that you can make profit
but
in that area.
who lays the foundation to attract investors? Because I wouldn't go to a location, I wouldn't go to a country where if the government is not providing that platform for me to come and be successful, even though some private sector, because I wouldn't pave a road for my competition to come in to undercut me.
Once you see money, once investors see money in providing the infrastructures, and once they see that they can make money from it, they will provide the infrastructures, and they would do it at a lesser cost than if the government was to do it, a much lesser cost. It's all about making money, and yes, you may have competitors, but once you see you can still make profit, investors will go in whatever area they see they can make profit, including laying down infrastructure. And that's the biblical way to go. That's the biblical way to go. And money would be much better and more wisely used when the private sector is doing it than when the government sector is doing it. So it's all about money and making money, including the laying down of infrastructure. And like I said, that's the biblical way to go.
Okay.
And like I also said, for example, in doing this thing, increasing the spending and purchasing power of the dollar, if you could go to a supermarket and what you're buying now for $700, you could buy it for $250 or $200. You would be arguing less and putting less pressure on your employer to give you raises and that sort of stuff because the cost of living would be a lot lower and the standard of living as a result would raise very significantly. So therefore the pressure coming from people to raise this salary and raise that and that sort of stuff would be a whole lot less. But when things get more expensive because of inflation and that sort of stuff, and the government is not doing what would raise the purchasing power of the dollar, that is what increases the pressure for people demanding more raise and more pay and that sort of stuff. And in the end, when that is done, enforced and the process by government, in the end, it is very detrimental and counterproductive to the economy and to those especially who the government intends to help because it is all unbiblical. It goes against the Bible. And
okay, 30 seconds.
That is why
30 seconds,
only free market. That is why only free market capitalist model of economics works because it is the biblical one. Fascism, communism, socialism, Marxism, mixed economy, and all those sorts of stuff, they don't work in the end because it goes against the Bible. And secondly, we are to realize when government spends, and the more they spend, it is not for free. It's saying that they have a money tree that they go pick off the money from. They have to get the money, and ultimately, they have, in the end, and in the long run, they have to increase the taxes to get back the money that they spend. So people have to realize government spending and providing this and providing that is not for free.
Yeah, but
they have to get back.
Okay.
Even when they take loans, they have to pay back the loans, and they get the money from they have to get the money from the taxpayer, and that would have to come in the form of increasing taxes sooner or later.
All right, thanks, Carla. I have to take a break now to acknowledge our partners. But just before we go to that break, I just want to indicate that, again, when we talk about monies and government funds, we have to remember that it is through taxing us that government develop, gain the resources, and all of that. So when we talk about government's money, it's the people's money. That's why we talk about holding governments and everybody accountable for their actions and spending and all of that. But we have to take a break now to acknowledge TDC and Cara Brewery, and then we'll come back with more insider news on the other side of the break.
TDC, your VAT Day specialist, is giving you more reasons to save this holiday season. Shop your way on Friday 15th and Saturday 16th December at TDC Automotive Division, City Drugstore Nevis, TDC Home and Building Depot, and shop TDCGroup.com and pay no VAT. You heard right, that's on us. This weekend, go where the savings are. Shop with TDC, your VAT Day specialist. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Back here on Inside the News, and we go straight to the phone line. Caller, good afternoon. Well, we lost that caller there. Today we're discussing the budget and how is it going to be impacting you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We go back to the phone line. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon again, sir. Carl Bowman again. Question. All of these things that announced in the budget, what we call packages for we the citizens and well-wishers that live here. The question is, where all of this money is coming from? What fund that money is coming out of? And which well, they will be under several different ministries, right? But then I hope that the ministries get significant amount of millions, extra millions than last year, because if you're running all these programs and packages, significantly the ministries millions have to increase significantly. And on the STEP program, how long these governments are going to continue with this STEP program? And then one of the things is that they are using the STEP workers to give to large businesses who could afford to pay salaries, and refusing a lot of the small businesses, one or two workers who can't afford to pay salaries. And then how long would you keep them on to these large businesses? I have a proposal for the new year. What they should do is that the large businesses, let us start to pay half of the salary starting in the new year. The small businesses, you give them 2 years with 1 or 2 or 3, whichever step workers. After 2 years, the small business and the large business have to start paying the step workers' salary, because you would have made money over the last 2 years, and you're supposed to be able to save money over the last 2 years because you didn't have those salaries to pay. So the third year, you should have those workers as your full-time workers, and you're paying them. wages and the social security. So the burden of the social security and wages now will remove from the government and move to the businesses that have these step workers. What you say?
It sounds like a really good plan, but I just want to go back to the first part where you mentioned that that the companies should be paying half. That's the arrangement right now with the government. That government pays part of it and the company pays the other part. I agree with you that at some point,
that is an arrangement on paper a few years ago, but I can bet you a Vitamalt that the government is paying a lot of those full-time salaries to a lot of big businesses who can afford, and small businesses. Some of the small businesses them even could afford to pay half and to take on those workers as the full-time workers. And that's why I say that we must have some discussions in town hall meeting which people don't like to come to, and then they blame the government because they don't come to give no ideas and no suggestion. They don't come to criticize. And then when the government do something, they blame the government. Well, if you didn't come out to have your input, why would you have a say now? You had a chance to have a say. And they don't turn up at town hall meetings. They would stay home and watch it on the TV and laugh and giggle on the internet or something. And then when the government put the program in place, they have all kind of objection. Let the people like me and others who will go to the town hall meetings and give the ideas, the suggestions, and the critiques.
But Carl,
then you should have no say because you didn't make an effort to put no input in it.
But Carl, did you give these recommendations when the government had its consultation at town hall meetings recently?
No, they only had about 2, and they had them way in the country. They not bring none they not bring none New Road, St. Peters, they not bring none up Newtown, those places there. They not, I doubt if they had any in Old Road, Lambert's around there. So only a small percentage of people had thing, and I keep asking all the time, when is the next 2 or 3 discussion on the budget? And then all you could hear the Prime Minister say, well, we don't have to and name out some way distance in the country. Right? So this side of the city and town and that and villages and things ain't get no discussion. So you only want a small percentage. Because I keep telling them I have some ideas that I would like to give to the budget discussion. And then they only had 2 and they're done with it.
Okay.
So I hope they will take this idea on board and have some discussions on radio talk shows, go to the constituents in all the different constituencies, have town hall meetings and discussions, and let the people have the input, and we could set this thing in place by June. So from June go down, we should say the businesses them, you are informed that in the next 2 years, you are going to be paying these step workers, and they are going to be your full-time staff. The government have to get rid of some of this load. Why the businesses them must benefit, and then when we go into shop, we ain't seeing no difference. Instead, we see a difference. We see a hike. You have free workers that working for you. Well, why the savings? The millions and thousands of savings that you accumulate and are saving, why the customers them can't see trickle down to them? Are gone. Just some ideas for them to think about.
All right, thanks, Carl. So Carl was sharing his perspective there on what should be included. It's an interesting discussion when we talk about the whole STEP initiative, and we keep revamping it and all of that. But I know we have just about 50 minutes left. I have Mr. Kevin Brown, who took some time out from the news to join me here in the studio. Mr. Brown, good afternoon. Okay, we'll try to get him set up there. We'll try to get him set up in terms of yes.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yes, trying to get technology to work. Trying to get the technology to work. So, Mr. Brown, it's good to have you on Inside the News. You know, I actually pulled you on press and pulled you out to the newsroom. You know, what I want to get from you, right, specifically for the next maybe 15 minutes or so, is we had the budget this week, and a lot of us heard. Well, we all sat through that 5.5 hours of presentation. Sorry, my colleague yesterday in Antigua said to me, he would not have done it. Right, so.
Well, technically, I couldn't sit through the whole 5.5 hours because, you know, news and news packages and all that stuff. But yeah, I did hear most of the 5 hours.
Good. So I want to get from you, from a media perspective, how do you guys begin the whole discussion about covering the budget and focusing primarily on the budget? Because we hear a lot of technical language being spoken in the budget, right? But we don't necessarily, we have to be able to dissect specifically that 5.5 hours and have the people and the public understand what exactly was said in that 5 hours.
That's a very heavy question that you've asked, German. As it relates to dissecting, it really depends on the budget address and the details in the budget address. That's why a lot of the times we often, even sitting through that 5.5 hours, we still try and get the actual physical copy, or at least a soft copy of the full address, so that we can actually delve into it in details. Because listening to the 5 hours that the Prime Minister spent addressing the people about, capital expenditure and the country's debt and projections for next year and this incentive and this initiative and this salary increase and this social security reform, it's a lot to take in the moment that you take it in. So essentially, in covering it, you kind of have to go through the 5 hours, unfortunately. And you'd think that it would be one sitting of the 5 hours. It's not. It really isn't the one sitting of the 5 hours, because you have to go through the initial 5 hours, pick out the points that you figure are salient or most appropriate. That would normally be the budget allocations for 2024, how much the entire expenditure is expected to be, the allocations for each ministry, and then whatever, announcements that the people are waiting on. And we know the people were waiting specifically on if they're going to get something financially, what incentives, what gifts were expected to be given out. And then you go back and comb through the rest of the 5 hours again to see exactly what you could pull out. Like, let's say, for instance, our debt situation, where we are in that regard, and how much of that debt they're looking to pay back next year, or projected to pay back next year, how much they're looking to they are projecting we will make as a country in revenue. Additionally, how much money each ministry is expected to spend, or each ministry is expected to make, any changes to taxes, if there are any changes to taxes. And as we know, in Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown announced a huge change to their version of value-added tax. And could you imagine if that was increased here?
Well, from what my colleagues and friends in Antigua say, St. Kitts blessed with money. So
we're
rich
blessed.
over here.
We're rich. Wow. And you see, that's why we always get complaints from various ministers that say we don't get access to as much money outside of the country, because we are seen as, rich.
Yeah, because I keep hearing that thing from my good friends in Antigua, and these are people who are involved in politics. They say, St. Kitts rich, and then what we saw happening during the COVID pandemic and all of that. But you raised some valid points, right, in terms of the media's coverage and what's the expectations for the media in terms of the budget. But how is it difficult? Because even though, let's say, you dissect, and let's use an ordinary year budget, Right. Let's 2023, this 2023-2024 budget, the debate was a little bit different. It was special. 5 hours. Right.
Special. That's
But-
a good way of putting it.
But in an ordinary year, it's normally about 3.5, probably 4 hours. Right. Is it difficult to get the source people like the economists or someone to also give context to that? And how do you guys prioritize what is reported initially as against what's not reported?
In my experience, it kind of is somewhat difficult to get economists to take the time to break down the budget and what it means or what it could mean for the country in a way that's relatable to the people. So oftentimes, like I said before, we report essentially what we feel the people are more interested in, and then we then double back, because a lot of times the budget might last a week in December of the previous year, but chances are through February, March, even as stuff is implemented in 2024, we'll likely come back to the budget where whatever was announced initially to get some reference for where it started. So all priorities tend to revolve around money, unfortunately, because it's the sexiest thing. People want to know how much money is being spent and where it's being spent and how much of it might actually hit their pockets. And, that tends to catch the ear of people.
One thing, and I saw this when I was watching the live stream on YouTube, what people were actually paying attention to. So for probably the better part of the 5 hours, people were just sitting there patiently waiting for the Prime Minister to announce whether or not.
I was there. I was like I said, I tuned in and tuned out during the live as I was doing other stuff. And every so often I would look at the YouTube live comments and I was like, okay, I left an hour ago and I'm back and he's still talking. Those kinds of comments, I was like, wow, so y'all really are only here to hear if you're getting any money in your pocket.
But do you think, and you've been doing this, you're in this field, and we're the ones who have to educate the people. Do you think the people actually gravitate to what is mentioned and what is being said in the budget? Because obviously everything that is said in the budget presentation is going to impact the ordinary man on the street, whether or not we're allocating $100 million to climate change, or we allocating $100 million to construct the Bastard High School. That's going to impact us. But do you think we really educate the public enough for them to pay attention from the first word to the final full stop in the presentation? And I don't mean we just as the media, but in society in general.
I think it depends on how you address the ordinary man on the street, or how you define the ordinary man on the street. Because while we might have one definition, somebody who actually is or considers themselves the ordinary man on the street and had paid attention to the budget, there would be a kind of, taken aback at they not being recognized as an ordinary man on the street who actually cares about what was said in the budget apart from what they might get, So it all depends on the definition. But as it relates to paying attention to the full brevity of the budget, I think we lose a lot of people. In my personal opinion, and even my professional one, I think we lose a lot of people because there are certain people that are coming to learn. There are certain people that are coming to hear what the Prime Minister or what the government is currently envisioning for this year, what they plan to do, how much money they plan to spend, where they plan to spend it, how it's going to affect the ordinary man on the street, as we say, how it would affect families, how it would affect children. But then there are those who just want to hear what they're getting now, instead of the longevity that the budget is supposed to present for the year.
But how do we get the public to understand that as media people? How do we get them to? Because you see, the thing is, right, I can sit down here and talk for 2.5 hours, and at the end of that 2.5 hours, people just don't want to hear anything about the budget. They just want to say that the only thing that they took away from the budget is that public servants are going to get an 8% increase in January, and they're going to get a half-month salary added to the month's salary. Bam! That's all we want to hear. We don't want to hear anything else. But next thing you know, the Prime Minister may have mentioned that St. Kitts and Nevis is bankrupt, but I can give y'all a gift for Christmas. So next year, y'all don't expect that, right? Just speaking. So how do we? Because I find this disconnect really interesting, that we're not really paying as much attention to the nitty-gritty details of the budget. For example, we've spoken about this previously, but not on air. The Auditor General's report, for example, a lot of people don't really pay attention to the Auditor General's report, right? And sometimes it could be because of our political affiliation that we don't think the government is doing anything wrong at the end of the day. So how do we get this whole disconnect and people to connect?
Let's see. How shall I say this? We could beat the heartily dead. That's one way. We could just continue to report as much as possible in as plainly as we possibly can. All the information that we can find, that we can understand, because it makes absolutely no sense for us to report on something that we don't understand. Because then we're just saying words, and I think our audience can tell me we're just saying words, and we don't actually understand what we've written about whatever it is that we're presenting to them. But the onus on the media is to try as much as possible to understand what we're reporting as it relates to the budget and how it's going to affect the people. One of the drawbacks is that we don't have the luxury of having beat reporters, where we would have a specific financial reporter or an economic reporter who is just focused on economics and finance, who can, in their expertise as a financial reporter, because they probably have some expertise in accounting or economics or something, because they specialized and just decided that they're going to do economic reporting or financial reporting. That way they can actually break it down from the jargon of an accountant or a financier or an economist to the ordinary man and make that understandable and palatable and sexy, for lack of a better term, to the ordinary person. So you and I, we play jack of all trades. So we try our best to understand these financial jargon as much as we possibly can to expound upon the people the importance of these things. But sometimes we fall short, which is natural. Sometimes we don't always get the full picture, but we report what we can. Like I said, we just gotta continue beating the. we just have to continue reporting it.
I mean, you've raised a valid point there, because, and oftentimes we are the ones who get the flack for quote unquote not covering this or not mentioning this, or we are oftentimes required to work at the level of Al Jazeera or CNN, right, to get the message across to the public. And when it's not gotten across to the public, then at the same time, we get all the proverbial stones thrown at us, to the point that, we didn't do our jobs properly, right? But, and you're correct, and it all comes down again to resources and the fact that people have to want to understand this as well. Because you can say something, Kevin, and I might agree with you, but then tomorrow I said Kevin was talking. Right.
Very
but
true.
then when you sit down in a quiet moment, you realize Kevin was actually making a lot of sense in what he was saying. So yes, but I don't want to keep you any further. So I just want to ask you this last question, though.
Yes.
As we look forward to 2024, what within the budget, and I know it is still a little bit complicated for the media, what specifically in the budget would you be looking for that speaks to, or what's that one thing in the budget that you're looking forward to seeing being instituted and coming on stream, or some level of it impacting St. Kitts and Nevis for 2024?
Ooh, what am I looking forward to?
I know it's a lot to digest.
It is a lot to digest because there's a lot. More on climate financing. You know, we just came out of COP28. I'm still, apart from fighting with budget, I'm fighting with coalescing a bunch of information from a bunch of different sources and press conferences that I was a part of as it relates to the wrap-up for COP28. But climate financing on the local level, how much is the government investing in climate financing, and seeing that actually, you know, come out, not just in the press releases that we are privy to, but in some way that the public can tangibly see. Movement on the Bastille High School, I know the demolition of the building was already done, I think.
But when I was in the Wonder Park this morning, there was some level of work still ongoing up there.
But I know a lot of the structure has already been collapsed, essentially. Yeah. So more forward progression on that. Definitely more news on geothermal as we talk about energy transition and trying to get people to understand that, as well as more build out of private renewable energy products.
Initiative, the rollout of all of them,
Seeing more people, not just the government talk about it, but seeing more people actually
private
sector to come in.
Private sector to come more on board, and the ordinary man and NGOs to
right. What else am I looking forward to? Oh, can I say that I'm looking forward to it? Or I'm just interested to see how much work we can get done as it relates to the 25 by 25 agenda in agriculture. I can't say that it's something I'm looking forward to, but it's something that is very much on my radar. Finding ways to shore up our food security, finding ways to holistically and healthily exploit our blue economy. This is on my wish list and has been on my wish list for many, 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 many years, but I find our education system is a bit archaic and it needs to be updated. You know, so that we could produce globally competitive young people graduating from our high schools and our local college here.
Well, Mr. Brown, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're working hard to get the news on tonight. So thanks for allowing me to steal you for a little bit, about 20 minutes or so, to give us a media perspective in terms of covering the budget, because a lot of people don't quite understand how we in the media go about doing our work when it comes to covering budget, reporting on the news, but yet we still get all these proverbial stones being thrown at us for not doing enough.
They call us martyrs for a reason, Jeremy. We're supposed to take this stone on them.
But again, it would be nice to get some people a lot of people who criticize the media to get a better understanding. Maybe come in 1 or 2 days to actually be able to see how we go about doing news and gathering news, and what is priority over what is not priority, what filler stories must go in the news to make the time, and all of that. So not a lot of people, quite understand what goes into the news. And the biggest problem that we have, most newsrooms are short-staffed when it comes to everything. And you rightly said it. We don't have beat reporters. Most of the larger territories would have those, and we see them internationally when we turn on the TV. Al Jazeera, NBC News, CBS News, Euro News. You call all the major international players, they have those beat reporters who they can just call and say, hey, come give me an analysis of X, Y, and Z. So, But thanks for joining us, Mr. Brown.
Thank you for having me. And I hope I was, enlightening to the listening audience.
I think you were. Because a lot of people now get a better understanding of what it's like to be able to sit through that 5 hours and pull out a piece for the evening news, and then you have to come again to do it the next day, and then the day after that. So technically, it's for the last 4 days, 5 days, you've been listening to 20 plus hours of the Prime Minister speaking.
Still listening to it. Still listening to it. I took a break and listened to a little bit of Mark Brantley because he was talking about the Venezuela Guyana situation, but that was just a little break, and then I went right back to it.
So yeah, I'm happy that you share that so that the public can get a better understanding, even though a lot of them get a little insight in terms of how we do what we do, and they see a bit of the behind the scenes internationally. But just to give them a little snapshot of what it's like covering the budget, and some people have to go in there, sit down for all the time, listen to the debates, gather their stories, gather their thoughts, come back, log the stories, but then you still have to do the analysis of the budget, which a lot of people do not do. So, yes, there you had it. Okay, I will take this one caller before we wrap up. Caller, good afternoon. Can you be a bit short?
Yes, sorry. It's me again. I'm going to be very quick. Earlier when I said government needs to overwhelmingly privatize the vast majority of what it is doing, what I simply meant is that they need to do it in the right and proper way, because there is also a wrong way to do it. The right and proper way is to do it in a free market, capitalist context. For example, let's say the privatizing the schools and healthcare systems. What government normally does is they normally give out everything to one person, privatize it to one person or one group, and that's not good. The way to do it biblically and properly is that each school, each clinic, each hospital, etc., owned by different owners. And lastly, I'll just say very quickly as well, in order for us to understand and grasp and see the beauty, the wisdom, the knowledge, insight, and so on of the Bible, we first have to get right with Jesus Christ by biblically repenting and obeying the Bible, and learn from the Bible that the Bible applies to all of life, and we must follow the Bible wherever it leads us. Only then, with that mindset, will we see the beauty, the wisdom, the knowledge, insight, understanding, and so on of the pages of the Bible, and that it is the only answer and solution to all of our lives and human existence, and there's no other source like it that glorifies Jesus in giving us the answers and solutions for all of life and human existence. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Sorry about that. Thanks for joining us for this week's edition of Inside the News. I'm German Abel sitting in. It was a pleasure being in your company, interacting with you, gathering your thoughts, hearing from the Prime Minister on bits and pieces of his budget presentation and how it will impact you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Like I say, when I'm in the hot seat, I like to go beyond the politics and go beyond the headlines to get from you how these stories and pieces would impact you here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It was a busy news week for us here. Locally, we had the budget presentation. We hear the opposition's response to the budget, and we also had the COP28, post-COP28 press conference from the government ministers, including the Prime Minister, who attended those meetings in Dubai. Regionally, we had the big meeting between Guyana and Venezuela. The two leaders met in Argyle, at Argyle International Airport. Met at Argyle International Airport, and they shook hands and came to some level of an agreement, but the border was not necessarily discussed. The 2/3 of Guyana was not necessarily discussed. And internationally, the war continues in Ukraine and Israel, Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's just a lot, Kevin. That's just a lot.
It is a lot. And then there's the whole situation of the Democratic Republic of Congo. They're still going through it. And although it's quiet for both these territories, the tensions between China and the Republic of China and Taiwan, as well as South Korea and North Korea.
Listen.
It's a bit quiet now, but don't let it fool you. It's still there.
And just before I go, I must say and remind, just as the Premier said, leader of the opposition said the other day, these stories have impact repercussions for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we have to keep paying attention to them. And just to end on a pretty interesting note, the junior tennis players are out and about in Warner Park, Antigua and St. Kitts. You know, they're competing in the junior categories over there. You know, St. Kitts and Nevis last year came out and went down to Antigua and won. Yes, we whipped them, as they would say colloquially. We came back with a number of accolades. We won probably like 6 out of the 8 categories that were contested there in Antigua. So it's now St. Kitts and Nevis' turn to host that event, and it's ongoing at Warner Park Saturday and Sunday. Do go out and cheer on the youngsters as they compete. So again, all the best season's greetings to everyone. If I'm not here next week, do enjoy your Christmas carnival, and I will definitely see you again in the new year. So do enjoy.
People make the world go round. People make the world go round.